The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
Listening. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios at WNJC 1360 AM. I'm Kevin Wade. It is Monday, the 18th of April, in the year of our Lord, 2016. With me in the studio, as always, is our show's inspirational leader and founder, Rick Trader. Rick?
Kevin, great to be with you. It is a beautiful day, an absolute perfect day here on the East Coast. And we are inside saving the country.
One broadcast at a time. One broadcast at a time. That's how we turn this thing around. But we thank you, our faithful listeners, for being with us. And we promise we will give you unadulterated and uncensored conservative truth day after day after day. And I'm proud to do my part on Mondays.
And you do a great job at it, Kevin. And like I said, it's great to have you with us today. What's on your radar screen?
Radar screen is it's the middle part of April, and the Republicans nor the Democrats have decided who's going to lead them in the presidential contest in November. That's quite surprising to me, and it's an ongoing struggle, battle, lots of interpretations about why, how, and when we get through this thing. In fact, I will be commenting after the break at about 17 minutes after, probably about 19 minutes when we come back after the hour. And the theme of my commentary is no time for political operatives. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll enjoy it.
Well, I always do enjoy your commentary, and you're right. In my lifetime, Kevin, I've never seen the nomination of the candidates that neither party has Both parties. You got people fighting and struggling to get that nomination. Never have I seen them this close in both parties. You got Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton that are basically neck and neck. You've got Ted Cruz and Donald Trump on the Republican side that are battling out neck and neck, and it makes it very interesting. Very interesting.
It makes it
times.
interesting, and it also leads to a lot of frayed nerves and things said that shouldn't have been said, not just at the national level between the candidates, but down at home, in the precinct level and the wards in the electoral districts and the representative districts, as we call them in my home state, the first state of Delaware. Some of the nerves are getting a little bit raw, and we all have to remember that there's a battle to fight in November. Yep. And staying home, hiding under the bed, saying I'm not happy isn't a way to save this republic.
Well, Kevin, it goes even deeper than that. It goes through friendships and family. I've got, you talk about Facebook friends, and you may have 5,000 Facebook friends, but actually you probably don't know but a handful of these people. Well, one of the people who is a Facebook friend of mine, they and I are on opposite sides of who we want to win the nomination. It's gotten to be the point that it got so rancorous between them and myself that I had to stop following them in order to save the friendship.
Well, you need to save the friendship.
And
don't take the bait, because there are trolls out there who throw chum in the water hoping to attract some unsuspecting bait fish. You don't want to be an unsuspecting bait fish, Rick.
Well, no, and then you've got these websites, these fake and phony websites that have all this creepish stuff on the internet that you got to get through that too. You got to pick and choose what you want to quote from.
Well, the internet is much like a modern-day version of the 1800s dark back alley in certain neighborhoods where you just didn't want to go. You didn't want to go with friends, or you certainly didn't want to go by yourself, and you didn't want to go after dark. And that's what some of these websites are, and that's what some of the internet has become.
And then when I see people quoting the National Enquirer like it's the gospel, I mean, it's gotten ridiculous then.
No, it's ridiculous when you see a Democrat leader quoting the gospel like it's the National Enquirer. You talk about a lack of free speech. I want to find out who on the left at the national level has ever quoted scripture in a public comment in the past 5 years. Are there any Democrats who are ranking in the Garden State of Delaware who said, I've got some ideas that traditional marriage is best? You won't hear that on the left because there's no occasion, there's no permission of freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, real toleration, let alone free speech. So let's have our arguments on the right. At least we allow the language.
We do indeed. But makes for very interesting times.
And
especially when you do a show like this, Kevin, you think up, well, what are we going to talk about? There's never a loss of things to talk about.
No, it's because the human condition is always surprising you or actually disappointing you day after day. Just look at the news headlines in AOL. Take the news headlines in Fox News. Go to hotair.com to see how they view the world, and then go to the Huffington Post and see what their take is on the facts. And you'll see that we have a nation that is not only badly split in terms of what they believe to be true, but badly split in terms of what facts they'll actually admit that might change their thinking.
All right. And then we have Mateo over there, Kevin. We have Mateo is joining us, and he is the author. He is a published author now, or a writer. He's gotten another of his articles published, and we'll have it up on our website. So, Mateo is joining us.
What's his royalty deal?
What's this royalty deal? I think the same as ours. We have to pay for the privilege.
No,
literally and figuratively.
It is a privilege to get your ideas out of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, and it's a joy to meet some of the thought leaders in the conservative movement who come as guests.
Yep.
Who come as guests and share their most recent op-eds, their columns, their insights, and that's how I keep myself informed. We actually have truly the best guests that you will find anywhere in the country, and we have them for 2 solid hours from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah.
And that's 5 days a week.
So, Mateo, what is your latest column about?
Can you hear me? Check. All right.
I can hear you now.
So, one of the things that I've been trying to kind of rationalize in my head is whether or not Trump actually ever wanted to be president. And it was always like a conspiracy that I thought of. I always say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's always something that was in the back of my head. And then recently, one of the former communications director of the Make America Great Again Super PAC, she defected from the Trump campaign and wrote this entire blog post saying how the entire time that Trump's been doing this, the original intent was to just get double digits in the polls, come in second place, get his name out there, and that was it. And that's what she said. And then she said, this idea of the anti-politician running for office captivated her. She loved it and she hopped on board. But now she's seeing that it's sort of becoming poisonous because, in her words, Trump just wants to make Trump great again.
Yeah.
So I kind of analyzed what she said. I made it a little comedic, and I tied it in with how you ever hear of a pseudo event? You know what a pseudo event is? Well, I kind of call Trump the pseudo man. And how his campaign was intended to be a pseudo event that would reignite the Trump brand, but then it got whisked away into him leading the polls, and now he's leading the entire race.
Yeah, Kevin, I think Mateo's onto something. I've said for a long time, I don't know why Donald Trump would want to be president. This is a man who loves control, and the first thing that he would have to do is put all his holdings into trust. You wouldn't be able to control him.
Well, I've always wondered why George Washington, who was the wealthiest man in the country, wanted to be president.
Well, he did.
John Kennedy was...
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. He never discussed that.
Was the son of one of the wealthiest families at the time. They're no longer that rich in relation to the super rich, but the Kennedy clan was incredibly wealthy. He was the son of Joseph Kennedy. Why would he want to become president? I mean, why would someone want to be president?
Well, as far as the Kennedys goes, I think that was the dream of Joe Kennedy, the father. And as you said, they're not the wealthiest family.
They were at the time.
They were at the time. They're not anymore, and I guess that's what happens when you end prohibition.
So you take a look, and you say, people have reasons. I'm glad George Washington became president. I'm glad John Kennedy was president.
Yeah, I am too.
So that's my take on it. I don't know that there's like a presidential preparation plan you should follow.
All right.
I'm Kevin Wade. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM, FM 24/7, theolanden.com. My name ends in Wade. Today ends at midnight. You stay with us. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm messy, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And I guarantee you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. It's Monday. I'm Kevin Wade, joined in the studio by Rick Trader. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. Or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any telephone on the planet by calling 832-999-1199. Rick, it's that time on Monday when I venture into the world of commentaries. And today's commentary, to kick off this week, is No Time for Political Operatives. I was wondering what happens after the Republican convention in Cleveland. Delegates and party notables will convene in late July to select the Republican presidential candidate. That candidate will battle Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders in what will likely be the most bitter and hard-fought and consequential national election in our lifetime. At stake is the future of the country. This is not a presidential election where the important issues and policy differences are subtle. The campaign issues and contrasts are not simply differences in emphasis around common and agreed themes. The stakes on the table are fundamental to the life and continued existence of this country. Are we a nation of laws determined by the consent of the people or by presidential decree or the commands of a judge in a court? Will freedom of speech exist? Is my freedom of religion and action guided by my free will conscience determined by a judge or in fact controlled by me and only me as a free citizen? Do I have a right to truly own property? Or is everything I possess taken slowly or quickly by ever-increasing government taxes? Is there any limit to what the government can take? Will my government obey its own laws? Will my government protect the physical security of our borders, our communities, and our own bodily safety? These are not questions of emphasis between the two parties. These are questions that absolutely define the differences. There are two completely different destinations for America, one driven by Democrats and the other by Republicans. Again, the stakes of this election decide the continued life of our nation. The future life or death of the United States of America as a law-abiding republic and as a free nation of free people will be determined by who wins in November. The Republicans gathering in Cleveland in July must understand the consequences of their actions and the stakes for this election and ultimately for the nation. I'm convinced any Republican selected at the presidential convention is able to defeat the Democrat on one condition. That condition is unity in the party. That unity will inspire voters around the country if those voters see a fair, open, and honest convention. It may be heated. It may be passionate. It may be angry in some moments. Yet if the Republican candidate is to win in November and turn this country away from the disastrous destination of the Democrats, then Republican unity must come first. That Republican political unity must be an example of an appeal to national unity and a national good purpose under the Republican banner carried by the candidate with full support from all quarters of the party. This is no time to offer sour grapes, to take your ball and bat to go home because your perfect player wasn't picked. This is not time for petty recriminations, to be labeled falsely but nobly as holding to one's high principles. There are no high principles to be claimed by watching America burn down. Our country has been misled, bled, embarrassed, and abused by the deceptions of left-wing Democrats. The nation is divided and weakened. By their actions, we are not the same country. Our military is worn down. There is chaos in our major cities. Our economy is brittle and hollow. The core values that built this country from nothing and sustained us through our history are now subject to scorn and mockery by many liberals in high places. This public is righteously resentful and angry. Now, with the damage so great, it is only we the people who together are powerful enough to turn this around and recover from these long abuses. If we the people are to save this country, then the Republican Party must be a home for the people to come together. We the people come in all sizes and shapes. Let us not say no to those who wish to join us because they're not perfect in their political ideology. Maybe we're not. The Republican convention needs to be an example that fair play still exists, that votes count, that we the people are welcome, and that courage still has a home. This is a time in our nation and in the Republican Party to embrace patriots of good heart who are together for love of country and not political prestige. This is a time for everyone in America, and especially those Republicans in Cleveland, to be patriots, not political operatives. I'm Kevin Wade, and that's the way I see it, Rick.
Kevin, another great commentary, and you're right about there are some out there who want to burn down the country and thinking that something can arise out of the ashes, and maybe it can, but do we really want to go through that? Do we really want to go through that turmoil? Because you got to think, it's not just what happens in our country at a particular time. It's what happens in world events, what's going on in the world. And just as right now Vladimir Putin has his jets buzzing our ships and our jets, there are people in the world who do not like us and are looking for our weaknesses so they can take advantage of us.
And they are taking advantage. They're not looking to, they are. They are taking, and it's been going on a very, very long time. We have the smallest Navy since World War I. Our Army at the moment has fewer men in service than we did since before the days of Pearl Harbor, when our troops used to train with wooden rifles for lack of the real thing. This has been the handiwork of the of Democrats, not being challenged by Republicans. We have a lot of literary library Republicans who can give a heck of a speech, but they won't come out and face the bullets, and they don't show any courage, and they don't inspire most people in our neighborhoods. And that's where we are right now. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet, with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7, theallendon.com. You stay with us. We'll be back with our first guest in about 6 minutes.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delks playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Berrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., just after lunch, log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're going to have our first guest up here in a minute. We're trying to burn our way through some NSA jamming in the telephonic signal. But Frank Vernuccio should be with us soon to talk about why the heck did Russia boycott the nuclear summits. He's all over that, and he's going to be sharing his observations and conclusions with you. I'll tell you, let's take a moment to comment on the summertime weather we're having here in the Mid-Atlantic. And drove into the studios, and it was 81 degrees. It was gorgeous. Too nice to be inside. I wish we could do this broadcast from a park, some here in Washington Township. But I'm getting the thumbs up from our ace studio engineer that our guest is ready. Frank Vernuccio is editor-in-chief of the New York Analysis of Policy and Government, providing objective coverage for key issues facing the United States today. He's co-host of the Vernuccio Novak Report, nationally heard each Thursday at 10 a.m., both on broadcast radio here, I believe, and on the web at amfm247.com. And with that, Frank, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Frank, are you with us?
I am. Good to be with you.
Very good. We've had some radar jamming here. We're having trouble getting our signals out. But that's the way it is when you're one of the few outlets carrying the truth here in the Mid-Atlantic. Hey, Frank, you have a column. Why did Russia boycott the nuclear summit? And with that lead-in tease, I will simply ask you, why did Russia boycott the nuclear summit?
Well, Russia's claim is that they've attended similar summits in the past and there was no reason to do so now. The reality, of course, is somewhat different. The fact of the matter is, since the signing of the 2009 New START Treaty, Russia has been able to, for the first time in the nuclear age, actually become the predominant nuclear power on the planet. In doing so, it is also bringing in its newfound ally, or not so newfound ally, Iran, into the whole nuclear fold. And it simply doesn't see any reason why it should negotiate with what it views essentially as a lesser power. Yes, the United States, a lesser nuclear power than Russia at this point. The concept of non-proliferation, particularly when it comes to Iran, doesn't necessarily suit Russia's needs. And so they're not going to be involved in any kind of discussions which are going to restrict what it does.
Should any of this be a surprise to our listeners?
No, it shouldn't. But the fact of the matter is, the major media, except for great shows like yours, really doesn't talk very much about military affairs at all. The fact of the matter is, just a short 7.5 years ago, the United States was the indispensable nation, the undeniable superpower on the planet. No one else could really match it. But even 7 years ago, the military of the United States was starting to decline, and that decline was rapidly accelerated by the Obama administration. Today, we're in extraordinary peril. If you were to draw a historical analogy, today would be December 6, 1941, the day before Pearl Harbor, with one big exception. We no longer have the industrial might to quickly build a military force that would have to be fielded really quickly. If, God forbid, a major war starts now, we go to battle with essentially what we have on the ground now. And what we have now is not very encouraging. Let's look at the numbers. The Air Force is the smallest it has ever been in its history, and many of its planes are antiquated. We have pilots flying the exact same planes, not the same type of planes, but the very same planes that their grandfathers flew decades and decades ago. The Army, the United States Army, is the smallest it's been since before World War II, and in fact, the United States Army is smaller than North Korea's. Our Navy is the smallest it's been since before World War I, not World War II, World War I. Our crews on those ships are being overtasked. We can't keep using human beings like they're machines that never need oiling or rest or repair, and that's exactly what we're doing. Now, at the same time, at precisely the same time, that we have to fulfill, I guess, that old hippie dream of give peace a chance, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, and the North Koreans have been dramatically expanding both conventional and nuclear forces at their disposal. So we see a decreased American force facing a rising and continuously expanding Russian, Chinese, Iranian, North Korean force. It's the greatest threat the United States has actually ever faced in its history, possibly since the British burned the White House in 1812.
And I'm still sore about that.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you're making some observations here, and you are right. This is one of the few outlets where you're going to hear this discussed in any depth. I think the left will say we've been at peace. We have not been involved in any wars in the 7 years that we've had this wise, forward-leaning liberal leadership. And what would your response to that be?
Well, let me again draw a historical analogy. The same thing could have been said if Franklin Delano Roosevelt decided not to respond to the Japanese attack and decided not to respond to Adolf Hitler's declaration of war. Hitler would have run roughshod over the entire continent of Europe, including Russia, by the way. The Japanese would have finished their conquest of China and the Pacific. And, of course, but that would have been peace. That would have been peace. Right now, we're in a similar situation. The Russians are expanding greatly. The Chinese are expanding greatly. Russia has went to war twice against Georgia, and it took over part of Ukraine. Now it's threatening the Baltic states of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. The Chinese, we know what they're doing in the South Pacific, expanding the reach of their Navy, threatening neighboring territories. In 2010, they took over part of the...
Frank, I need to interrupt you here, and I'm going to give you a question to chew on while we take a break. Now, you just said 20 seconds ago that Russia has taken over the Ukraine. I'm going to pose that can't be because the United States government has guaranteed the security of the Ukraine when they agreed to dispose of their nuclear weapons, because at one time they had the third largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world. And they dismissed those, they disposed of those, and we guaranteed their security. So you think of that question, you stay with us, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Kevin Wade. It's Monday, the 18th of April. In the studio with me is Rick Trader. On the line with us is Frank Vernuccio, and he's got this question: how could it be that the Ukraine is being broken into pieces by Russia, since we, the most powerful nation on earth, have guaranteed their security? You stay with us. We will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. If you'd like to rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and ccrshow.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. On the phone with us is Frank Vernuccio. And, he's reflecting on why Russia boycotted the nuclear summit. And he mentioned that Russia under Vladimir Putin has taken a big bite out of this country called Ukraine. And I said, no, that can't be true, because I know that our United States government had solemn commitments to the people of Ukraine to protect their sovereignty. And he's going to explain it to us now. Frank, thanks for staying with us.
Two-word answer?
Yes.
You lied. Fact of the matter is, we have been pulling back on our treaty obligations to our friends around the world, as well as pulling back from those that support American interests. Let's run down the roster. You mentioned, of course, the fact that we, and the Russians, by the way, guaranteed the territorial sovereignty of Ukraine in return for their surrendering of their nuclear arsenal.
Thousands of warheads.
Nuclear arsenal.
Thousands of warheads were turned over.
Indeed, it was a vast nuclear arsenal.
And that was a good thing. But that depended upon the good faith actions of those who guaranteed the country.
Exactly. But we've gone a lot further than that. 2 years ago, actually about a year and a half ago, President Obama withdrew all American tanks from Europe. You haven't heard that from many people, have you?
No.
The president withdrew all American tanks from Europe. Well, of course, after the invasion of Ukraine was completed and the scream and cries from our allies overseas was mounting to a crescendo, the president decided to return at least a small portion of those tanks back. But it was the biggest unilateral pullback of American forces probably in history, certainly since the Second World War. And it came without any fanfare, without any discussion in Congress, without any publicity before the American people. Only two sources reported it. One was the Stars and Stripes newspaper, which is the military newspaper, and the other, of course, is the New York Analysis of Policy and Government at usagovpolicy.com, our publication. But let's go a little bit further. When the Chinese invaded the Philippines' offshore exclusive economic zone, the United States, by treaty obligation to the Philippines, was supposed to, well, do something. If the United States didn't want to do something militarily to directly confront the Chinese, it certainly should have lodged a diplomatic protest. The Obama administration didn't even do that. Let's look a little further. We all know about the estrangement of relations between the United States and our firmest ally in the Middle East, Israel. That doesn't need any more expansion. We all know about that. But let's look at something that's a little bit more pragmatic. Of the Arab countries and Muslim countries in the Middle East, there was one leader who, despite having a terrible past, an atrocious past really, had decided to give up his nuclear weapons and decided to abandon terrorism, and was basically on the same side as the United States against Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood. That was Muammar Gaddafi. What did the United States do to Gaddafi? We helped kill him. We helped knock him out of power. There still has been no logical explanation of why we've done that. Let's look a little further. The firmest ally the United States had left within the Arab world was Egypt, particularly President Mubarak of Egypt. What did the United States decide to do? We decided to encourage his ouster and his replacement with a Muslim Brotherhood leader. We said nothing about the fact that a lot of what was done against Mubarak was illegal, but when the new Muslim Brotherhood government decided to take away the rights of the people and attack Christians, and the army in revolt decided to overthrow him, well, then the United States decided to object. In fact, the United States supported all of the Arab Spring movements, which essentially were designed to help the Muslim Brotherhood take over more moderate governments. All the Arab Spring movements, that is, except one. The Green Revolution in Iran, which was attempting to replace the radical government of Iran with one that was slightly more friendly to the United States. Doesn't seem logical, but that's precisely the path that the Obama administration has taken.
So he didn't call in airstrikes on Iran? He didn't fund guerrilla organizations and tribesmen in Iran? He didn't lecture Iran at the UN? What was different about Iran? Why didn't he take that posture of principle that he took in Tunisia and Libya and Egypt? Why didn't he take that same posture in Iran, Frank?
Well, I mean, the answer to that, of course, is one of two things. Either one, he simply didn't care to get involved because he thought it would result in more American involvement in the Middle East, or two, and the second option is the one that is perhaps the most disturbing. It is conceivable, based on his actions, that the president holds a worldview diametrically opposite that held by most Americans, indeed almost all Americans. He seems to believe that America is the disruptive bad force in the world, and whatever hurts American interest apparently is better for the world in his worldview.
And you are the sum of all your parts, and you are what you eat, and his entire life has been one that was nourished on hard left liberal propaganda. So it's not at all surprising that he holds disdain for this great American republic at the core of his being. That's what he was raised on, and that's how he acts. Now, the surprising thing, well, it's not even surprising. We're all regrettably older and wiser. It should have been surprising that the mainstream media didn't peel back the layers of onions a little bit in 2008 to tell us exactly how radical a person Barack Hussein Obama is.
Particularly when it comes to international affairs, the view of far too many on the left is simply that since the fall of the Soviet Union, there's absolutely no possibility of foreign danger to the United States or its allies. That is a thing of the past in their mind, and they simply won't accept the fact that the world is as dangerous, indeed probably more dangerous than it ever has been, and that requires a strong, decisive United States to act in the defense of freedom and act in defense of America's own interest.
He has, and I've picked this up, he has made statements, and his administration officials have made statements related to certain terrorist attacks on Americans around the world and inside the homeland. He's made comments to the fact that this group or that group, terrorist group, does not pose an existential threat to the United States.
Yeah, let's go back,
but let me
interrupt and remember that Barack Obama's comment on ISIS was that it was a JV team of no real danger.
I want to make a point here. When he says existential threat, they're not Adolf Hitler able to eradicate the Republic. They don't have that power. But they do have the power because they've demonstrated it to take American lives here, there, and everywhere at their whim and on their timetable. And most Americans have believed since the foundation of this country that the American government would work to protect your life from foreign enemies. And the president has parsed this thing that as long as the federal government isn't overthrown, we can deal with it. We may not be able to, we won't be willing to protect American lives. And that's the point I want to make about this presidency. He does not treat American lives the way every other American president has since George Washington.
It's a valid point, and the president's point of view is that the terrorist threat to America is less a national security issue than perhaps a law and order issue. He prefers to treat terrorists as common criminals, kind of like the guy who steals an apple at the local food cart, rather than as people who are posing a real threat to the lives of Americans. If he did not believe that, then certainly he would not be so eager to let terrorists go, particularly those stationed at Gitmo.
No, this is just an indication of a cowardly equivocation. If I draw out, put facts on a table, and you can go left or you can go right, but you have to draw a conclusion. And the most obvious conclusion based on the facts is that you have to pick up some very difficult and dangerous work. If you know that the result of a logical analysis causes you to pick up some difficult and dangerous work, you will just refuse to make the judgment because you don't want to go there because you're spineless and weak. That's the source of the equivocation. It's not because these issues are too complex. It's just because when you look at these things, the direction you are led by logic is one that the liberals are unprepared to take because they don't have the stuff needed to lead the nation in this struggle.
And, there's a certain consistency across the board when dealing with the hard left here. The hard left has attempted through various means to basically keep the other side of the political equation quiet. We know in climate cases, for example, they want to prosecute people who disagree with them on climate change. They, in college campuses, try to slap down students who have a different worldview. It's because in the final analysis, they know that their positions really can't stand up to scrutiny, and therefore silencing their critics is the only way they can go about winning.
It prevents the scrutiny that's needed. It simply prevents the scrutiny that's needed. Hey, Frank, quickly say goodbye. Before you do, tell our listeners how to listen into your show before we wrap the segment up.
Well, the absolute best way to do it is to listen to the Conservative Commandos at 1 p.m. every Saturday.
Hey, Frank Vernuccio, Editor-in-Chief, New York Analysis of Policy and Government, thank you so much for being with us today.
Great being with you. Thank you very much.
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM, FM 24/7, theallinin.com. My name ends in Wade. We are at the 4 o'clock hour here during the live broadcast on the East Coast. We will be back in about 6 minutes and 32 seconds with our next guest. You stay with us. We'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delps playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Berrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m., log on to Roar Radio, ROAR radio.net. And at 9 p.m., just before going to sleep, log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos by calling 832-999-1199. And our second guest to kick off the week is Andrew Harrod. He's a freelance researcher and writer who holds a Ph.D. from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy and a J.D. from George Washington University Law School. He's admitted to the Virginia Bar, and he's published over 250 articles concerning political and religious topics at American Thinker, Daily Caller, Front Page Magazine, Faith Freedom International, so on and so on and so on, etc. He has a piece out, Local Government Promotes Islamic Propaganda. Local government promotes Islamic propaganda. We all need to find out how that plays out. Andrew Harrod, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Well, thank you for having me again. I always love being here.
Okay, what is this Local Government Promotes Islamic Propaganda? What's that about?
Well, this involves... Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, yes, excellent. Yes, well, this involved the Fairfax city government advertising events and coordinating it with their interfaith office, community affairs office, an event that was held in Northern Virginia, in Annandale, Virginia, at a local Presbyterian church, John Calvin Presbyterian Church, involving Georgetown University professor Jonathan Brown and a local imam from the area, Zia Makhdoom from Alexandria, Virginia's Make Space Mosque. And the event really put on a very rose-colored glasses sort of propagandistic presentation of Islam and its doctrines for this interfaith group that had been advertised by the local city government of Fairfax County.
But they're allowed to put on events, and the church is allowed to host an event, and if they chose to publicize it, I'm not quite seeing that the government's thumb is on the scale of justice here.
Well, the question, I guess, would be is obviously any church or other entity can put on an event, but the question is, I guess, maybe one of impartiality. I mean, the event was precisely staged in a manner of a person from the local group got up and said, well, this event will help you counter Islamophobia. The questions arise, would this city government office of interfaith coordination, say, promote a more countervailing view of someone like, say, Brigitte Gabriel from Acts for America, who's more critical of the faith of Islam and its doctrines, or would it put on an event saying, we want to counter misinformation about the Church of Latter-day Saints or Jehovah's Witnesses and so forth? The questions arise at the event, as others were noting who had witnessed the event, of sort of the impartiality of the city government in its association with this group.
Well, I think Northern Virginia needs to get Gabriel in there to actually have that event, and let's have a fair and full debate. It's not, as you know, it's not unusual for someone who is hosting an event to speak kindly about their participants. And Andrea, I'm in no way an apologist for Islamic extremism, but I'm just trying to see where the meat is in this article.
Well, that was one aspect of it. I mean, just the event in itself, I think, shows the perils and pitfalls of various interfaith events that are going on around the country. I mean, this was an interfaith group that involved John Calvin Presbyterian Church itself, also the Dar al-Hijra Mosque here in Northern Virginia near Seven Corners in Arlington County. A mosque that in the past has been associated with, for example, one of their imams was the Anwar al-Waliki imam, who was later an American citizen of Saudi background, I believe, was later killed by an American drone strike in Yemen for his role as sort of a propagandist and an organizer for Al-Qaeda. Indeed, also one of the hijackers for 9/11 had attended the mosque of Dar al-Hijra, so somewhat shady connections there with the mosque. And Zia Maktoum's mosque as well has played host to individuals like Suhaib Webb, an American Muslim convert who's been imam at both the Islamic Society in Oklahoma as well as the Islamic Society in Boston, where respectively the beheader in Oklahoma attended, and then later the Sarnoff brothers attended in Boston, who did the Boston City bombing, and has also played host to various individuals with sort of 9/11 truther past, and saying that, making theories about the federal government was behind 9/11 as a false flag operation. So I think certainly for interfaith groups that would be engaged in such discussions about Islam around the country, they should take note of such individuals and their backgrounds and be a little more circumspect in what they're hearing.
To your knowledge, in the area, in the Fairfax area, have there been any events where they've had people who have come in to speak bluntly about the hazards of Islamic radicalism and the inability of our security people to fully measure the impact of radical imams in the United States? Has there been some counterbalancing combination of presenters and events?
Well, I guess looking specifically again at this interfaith coordination office of Fairfax City Government, they've also affiliated with and sort of advertised events of the Rumi Forum, which is in Washington, D.C., as well as they have an affiliate in Fairfax as well. They're part of this whole Fatila Gulen movement of this kind of shadowy sort of Islamist, sort of Muslim Brotherhood sort of affiliated person from Turkey who now lives in the United States and has been noted, leads a movement that has been noted for seeking to kind of infiltrate into government institutions in Turkey and advance various Islamic agendas. They've been affiliated with that entity. So the events they sort of all put on are sort of like this event. They're kind of, again, we're countering Islamophobia, irrational fears, or bigotry of Islam, and trying to, again, counter any prejudice. So it's all very sort of pro-Islamic, Islamophile kind of presentation, or sort of pro-acceptance of, say, Syrian refugees. I mean, they had an event as well where they talked about people in Fairfax, Virginia, responding to issues of bringing in Syrian refugees. So there, with that particular office, there would arise the question of its of a certain partisanship or bias of no sort of critical questioning. I mean, other entities, of course, can put on events. I can't think of, say, specifically, say, Bridget Gabriel herself appearing here. I mean, there is, for example, thinking of her Northern Virginia ACT chapter in the area that does indeed put on ACT events that would indeed deal in a critical manner with these doctrines of, say, jihad and Sharia and Islam from another aspect. But this particular sort of Fairfax City government office, it's the events, it's a very sort of monotone bias in the things that it does.
Did the event include like a Q&A or any interaction with the audience?
Yeah, yes, they did indeed have a question and answer session. There were two presentations, one each from Imam Zia Maktoum and another from the professor Jonathan Brown from Georgetown University, and then that was followed by a question and answer session of about equal time of each one presenting. And some of the questions there from some of the audience members were indeed more critical.
Yeah, I think one question always has to be asked is how do leaders in Islam separate an adherent's personal faith from the call to establish a form of government in their home communities? I mean, one thing about the Presbyterians and the Calvinists is they didn't go into when they settled in a community, they didn't seek to overtake the government and impose their own religious subscription of laws. And that is the fundamental conflict that many of us have with Islam. It's not simply a matter of a person's faith. It's a matter that they have been called to establish a form of government. And that, of course, is antithetical to those of us who love our U.S. Constitution and our own selected way of life.
Right. That's a very, very basic concern with Islam, that in its orthodox traditional doctrine, it encompasses both piety and politics. So, I mean, people make analogies with, say, totalitarian systems and sort of its comprehensiveness, its all-encompassing nature. And so that then raises questions that it's not just the personal devotions and observance of a faith, but anyone seeking to advance such a political, legal agenda.
And this is why you find throughout Europe you have these Sharia law zones, you have these no-go zones, you have places where the culture has not adapted to the host country's culture, but in fact has remained isolated, and it becomes something of an outpost of Islam in the heart of Western civilization, or to use a word that's unfortunately drifting out of fashion, in the world of Christendom. And those are fair questions to ask of someone who's representing Islam to the community.
Indeed. I mean, there were questions, questions that quite specifically come up on this issue of perhaps what you could call sort of like a vigilante Sharia, or, you know, sort of parallel societies, as has been noted in Europe in particular, with the presence of a large Muslim diaspora there. The questions there that were somewhat critical. I mean, I asked a question in particular that often comes up, that Zia Maktoum, as I noted in the article, made a reference. He said, that this is verbatim in the Quran, that it says that to take one life is like killing all of humanity. And that's an almost ubiquitous reference you hear from Muslim apologists all the time to Quran verse, chapter 5, verse 32, where it has such language taken indeed originally from the Talmud, but it has, of course, the exception which people like Zia Maktoum often elide, that it says that except for those who fight against Muhammad's prophet and cause corruption, or the original Arabic word fitna, in the land. And then the subsequent verse of chapter 5, verse 33, specifies this brutal crucifixion and cross amputation punishment for those who do indeed engage precisely in such fitna. And I asked a question about, which was answered by Jonathan Brown, again using another sort of apologetic argument that others use, saying, well, this punishment for fitna, it comes from a particular episode in the life of Muhammad, Islam's prophet, of people engaging in kind of a highway robbery. So
Andrew, if Islam can't explain itself, it's hopeless for Christians and Jews and non-Muslims to explain Islam around the world. I want you to stay with us, Andrew. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about this some more. Will you stay with us?
Excellent.
We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7, and I guarantee listeners, none of those outlets are Sharia compliant. You stay with us. We will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
He is Colonel Alan West, but he's wrong. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. On the phone with us is Andrew Harrod. He's a freelance researcher and writer, and he's frequently published on issues of faith. And he's with us now talking about the local county government seeming to tip the scales in favor of Islamic propaganda in Northern Virginia. Andrew, are you still with us?
Yes, excellent being here.
Very good. Thank you for staying with us through that commercial break. Yeah, I mean, we need to. We seem to have some apologists, many apologists in the government, who refuse to, when hosting some interfaith session or some meet the community session or some seminar or workshop, refuse to ask some tough questions of the local spokesman of the local mosque. And there has been, 10, 12 years of effort now to gloss over the fact that somewhere in the world today, someone who's a follower of Islam is killing somebody in the name of his religion. And it's not a matter that Christians simply don't know the truth of the Koran. It's that too many Islam followers find the truth involves beheadings and burnings and drowning and explosions, and it's nothing to do with Western foreign policy. It's been going on since the 700s. It has nothing to do, I'll tell our listeners, with Christianity, because they are equal opportunity in their madness and their terrorism, and they attack Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs and Jews and Roman Catholics and Orthodox Catholics and evangelicals. There is no end to the list of enemies of people who call themselves true followers of Islam. And that's the side of the story that never comes up in these community settings, Andrew.
Well, yeah, the center of this presentation and many others is, again, this whole idea of Islamophobia, of phobia, an irrational fear, a prejudice or a bigotry against Islam. And so the tenor is, we want to dispel any such worries or misconceptions you might have and put you at ease and give you information to see Islam as another faith, a friendly faith, a faith that does not harbor within itself or have within its canonical core any kind of aggressive or authoritarian doctrines that would threaten you. So precisely the sort of history you're alluding to of jihad and of aggressive expansion and of domination, subjugation of other non-Muslim communities is simply pushed aside, just not referenced or mentioned.
And, we do our best on this show to bring a variety of conservative voices who love this country and our values and our civilization to give them a chance to speak. But too often there is tax money being paid and bureaucrats on the county, state, and national payroll who seem to be undermining the public's understanding of the truth by glossing over the bloody and unfortunate real history of Islam and the culture it has shaped, because Islam is what shapes the culture of the Middle East, and there is no more powerful sculptor than the faith that a person carries in their heart. There's a reason for Christians to behave in a certain way as an organized group of people who may be strangers around the world, but we share certain common tenets, turn the other cheek, and so on. And there is a bond that's been shaped by the teachings of the Koran, and it unfortunately has not blessed the communities in which Islam is the predominant religion. What else is on your, Andrew, what else is on your radar screen that you may be working on in terms of columns in the next few weeks?
Well, actually, indeed, a fair number of things. One other similar sort of tenor and tone of a panel I attended was at Georgetown University, again involving Jonathan Brown's various colleagues at Georgetown University at the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, this Saudi-funded entity there that always follows precisely the similar line of putting on a positive presentation of Islam. A panel there involving the head of that ACMCU, John Esposito himself, and other individuals. They're talking about race, religion, and U.S. presidential politics in 2016, and John Esposito was saying that Islamophobia in the United States and in Europe has reached a sort of a high pitch, its highest point, and it seemed to me at the panel with the other panels like the journalist Ishan Taror and another person, Engi Abdul Qadir, a person who's been a professor and works with another group, the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, another Muslim-backed sort of group that also does a lot with Islam and puts on a similar positive presentation of the faith. They were all repeating sort of arguments that we've perhaps heard several times in the past years of Muslims are victims of hate crimes, and there's just bad media portrayal, and our national security institutions are engaged in all these efforts of, say, profiling or investigation, and it's a maligning of the faith. It's not deserved. It's kind of like a state of siege for Muslims, and it just struck me that sort of year after year after year, you keep hearing these same arguments, and yet incidents like the attacks in Paris, or first Charlie Hebdo, and then later in November of 2015, another attack, and then San Bernardino, and then now recently the Brussels attack, and all of the concerns with refugees and security risks there coming in. That sort of the various terrorist attacks and other violent incidents keep occurring, and yet the arguments from people like John Esposito just sort of keep staying the same. It becomes kind of repetitive, and
Andrew,
over and over again, and you wonder how long that will last.
Andrew, the American people have had enough of apologists for Islam and its imprint on the American landscape. Come back again. We enjoyed having you today.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're broadcasting from our studios at WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM, FM 24/7. You stay with us. We'll be right back for the last guest of the first day of this week.
I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Deltz playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Thanks for staying with us. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any telephone on planet Earth by calling 832-999-1199. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. I'm Kevin Wade. In the studio with me is Rick Trader. And we're coming up to our final interview segment, and we have saved the best for last. Fred Lucas is the White House correspondent for theblaze.com and, a little secret, the unofficial White House correspondent for Conservative Commandos Radio. Before joining The Blaze, Fred worked at CNS News. Fred's also the author of The Right Frequency, the story of talk giants who shook up the political and media establishment, and he has a new book out. Well, he doesn't tell us what book that is. We're going to find out in a second. Fred Lucas, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
You have an article, the U.S. Marines, our leathernecks, say they're at a breaking point after Obama administration budget cuts. What's that about?
They're one of the big concerns among U.S. Marine colonels, several who had gone on the record to a few different news sources, brought up that they were concerned about there are a lot of planes that aren't really equipped to fly. Older planes that don't have parts that are ready, and it could put things at a disadvantage. And this is they put this on general budget cuts that have come through since President Obama's been in office. Some of them sequester as well. I asked about this during the White House briefing on Friday, and spokesman Josh Earnest put it, as you might expect him to do, squarely on Republicans and the sequester. Of course, the sequester was not entirely one party or the other. That was something that both parties did because they were playing chicken with one another a few years back.
It sounds like we lost. It sounds like we lost in that game, but go ahead.
Right. And that is something that it was across-the-board budget cuts, but it disproportionately cut military spending compared to a lot of the social spending. So, and some of that was a big loss for the military. But there were also other general budget cuts throughout the Obama administration with the military.
And how has this impacted? I'm looking at your column. Apparently, the Marines have 276. That's a quantity. 276 Hornet strike fighters. Now, is that for the Marines, or is that the Marines and Navy combined?
Oh, that is for the Marines. This is entirely focused on the Marines, and those are that personnel.
And two-thirds of those,
but it's entirely on aircraft. Is really where they're being hit, because in some cases aircraft won't be built anymore that had been useful in the past, and that is something that's not sequester related, because the Obama administration had been pushing that they believe certain programs within the military are not effective while certain ones are, and they're trying to push that, move money around in one sense. This is something that's not really a high priority with the administration, and that is something Josh Earnest did speak a little bit about when I asked him about it on Friday, which was that in his words, that they're trying to prioritize, just like any family would do so when making a budget on the military. So that's but the military itself, these Marine commanders, they have a lot of concerns about this, and particularly when you look at how the Obama administration has pushed spending in other areas.
Well, it's misplaced priorities. It's a lack of appreciation for the tools that are needed by our brave men and women in uniform. In your article here, you say fewer than 1/3 of 276 FA-18 Hornet strike fighters are ready to fly. That means 2/3, or approximately 180 or 190, are suitable at the moment to be bookends or boat anchors, but they're not suitable to fly in defense of our nation. Now, I'm sure they can be repaired. I'm sure you can swap parts, you can steal parts, you can actually spend money and put some people on extra hours and improve the readiness level. But this is appalling. This is absolutely appalling. Same thing with heavy lift.
And it does come at a surprising time. I mean, there is oftentimes the left does seem to believe that, well, we've got this behind us, now we can sort of move on. We saw this in the 90s with the Clinton administration. They believed that, well, the Cold War's over, now we can just kind of gut military spending. After President Obama came into office, he was sort of, I'm the president who ends wars. The global situation didn't turn out that way. And after these military cuts went into place, well, now we've had the rise of ISIS and so forth.
And let's talk about something that's very important on the war on terror, and that's helicopter capacity, lift capacity. Heavy lift CH-53 Super Stallion helicopters have 147. Only 42 are ready to fly. That's over 100. Again, are bookends and boat anchors, and that's how we resupply our forward bases. We use these helicopters. We use these helicopters to move men and material, basically what we call communications, out to the sharp end of the spear. And I mean, thank God for lieutenant colonels. I believe when people reach the general staff level, they stop really being concerned for the service, and they begin to be more concerned for getting the second and third star. But our colonels, and they may not be around long after being quoted in your article, but Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Pablo Brown, God bless him for speaking up. Is there any understanding that you have that there are Democrats in Washington in positions of leadership in the House or the Senate who share concerns about the readiness of, say, marine aviation?
Well, that's a very good question. There was a time when you did have conservative blue-dollar Democrats who were sort of more hawkish. I think the last of those went out in terms of the hawkish went out with Joe Lieberman. Possibly a guy like Joe Manchin might have some concerns about what's happening to the military. But by and large, the Democratic Party has largely sort of abandoned that.
And if they abandon the military ends up not being equipped and able to stand by us, we get abandoned in the end. Fred, I want you to stay with us. We're going into a hard break, and we're going to need a couple minutes to sell some stuff. But I'd like to come back and complete this interview with you, if you would stay, Fred.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Fred Lucas, White House correspondent for The Blaze, is staying with us. I want you to stay with us, too. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 AM, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Radio, Red State Talk Radio, AM/FM 24/7, theallinin.com. I'm Kevin Wade. Stay with us. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Hey, thanks for staying with us. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com, and you can listen to the Conservative Commandos simply by calling 832-999-1199, and that phone gets answered 24 hours a day. It's amazing how that works. Fred Lucas stayed with us. He's a White House correspondent for theblaze.com, and he's pointing out that we have Marine Hornets that can't take off, and we have Super Stallion helicopters that are supposed to shuttle Marines around and their supplies, and 42 of 147 are able to go up and down safely. And Josh Earnest, White House press secretary, blames much of this on the Republicans. I'm not surprised. Hey, Fred, thanks for staying with us.
Yeah. No,
so there was a time when you would have Democrats in the House and the Senate also be concerned about the readiness of the American military, but you just don't see that anymore. It's not something that they fret about.
It is something that we've seen. There's not really a lot of, I guess, conservative Democrats anymore, or hawkish Democrats. Like I mentioned, up there in the Northeast, and sort of in your area, close by, Joe Lieberman was sort of the last of those hawkish pro-defense Democrats, and he lost a primary. He managed to win his back seat in 2006, but then he didn't run again after that, so he's out. So there's really not, possibly Joe Manchin is one of those, but he hasn't really stepped forward necessarily on defense issues.
Do you know of who are the Republicans who are up in arms about what's happened to the readiness of our young Marines?
Well, I do know that Jeff Miller in the House, James Inhofe in the Senate have both talked quite a bit about the defense cuts that we've seen, and in terms of just the Marines, there hasn't been a whole lot of talk. We have seen John McCain speak out on the military hollowness being hollowed out, and so we've seen sort of the moderate and conservative wings of the Republican Party being quite upset about the some of the gutted military budgets here.
And of course, we have a Republican control in the House of Representatives. They have the majority in the House Ways and Means Committee. Right. I have to believe that as they're crafting the new budget to be put before the House and then the Senate and then the President in September, October, I'm sure they're putting money in so that our young Marines have good air cover. Aren't they putting money in for? I mean, are you aware that they're putting money into the budget? Yes or no?
They are. It's just kind of a matter of those budgets being compromised and whittled down, and a little bit of what we saw last year, late 2015, when they came to that sort of a boondoggle of a budget agreement that did fund a lot of things that didn't necessarily restore all the military funding. So that gets into a whole another complaint.
Fred, my co-host.
Why do we have a Republican House and Senate, and some of these things aren't being taken care of?
There's a lot of people in the country that are trying to answer that question right now. Fred, my co-host, Rick Trader, your good friend Rick Trader, has a question.
Fred and Kevin, it seems like, Fred outlines it in his article, where he talks to Josh Earnest. Josh says there's been a willingness on the part of Republicans to champion the sequester. Well, help me out, Kevin, and also you, Fred. Wasn't sequestration Barack Obama's idea? Wasn't he the one that championed it? Wasn't he the one that signed it?
Back when Jack Lew was working in the White House and the OMB, and now it's the Treasury Secretary. But that was something that they thought that they were basically playing chicken with the Republicans. That they said, well, Republicans will give, basically fund all these things because we'll play chicken with them on these military funding cuts. And it turned out neither side could come up with an agreement. The sequester on a lot of fronts was very effective in reducing some of the deficit spending. And that is actually something that today the president's been able to say, well, we've reduced deficit spending by such and such. And that's almost entirely because of the sequester, which he rhetorically opposed, but which is something that both the White House and Congress are pretty much equally responsible for. And it was something that was actually proposed and written up on paper by the administration.
Fred, are these whistleblowers, for instance, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas, you have here, was deployed to the Pacific with 10 jets last year. Only 7 of them made it. Apparently he's talking out about this. Are these whistleblowers in trouble?
Not that I'm aware of at this point. I mean, it was somewhat surprising to see some of these folks come forward with their names. A lot of times folks are like to lay low, and but apparently that they did feel somewhat safe, or we might actually see something, but happen. Which I expect if we do see something happen to these guys, we'll find out about it.
Kevin, it seems like we're being lulled into this false sense of security. I don't know why. We have terrorist attacks all over the world. We went through 9/11. The Republicans are talking about whose wife is hotter, and the election laws in Colorado. The Democrats are talking about how bad the big banks are, how important marriage equality is, and how global warming is. But Kevin, this is our security, and this, I believe, needs to be a campaign issue.
Well, I think both of the remaining, I don't know where John Kasich stands. He's apparently looking at the military budget from the 1980s when he was so successful there. But I think both the candidates have spoken up about increasing the lethality, size, and number of troops and weapons at our disposal to defeat at least ISIS. I don't know that either of them have a great strategy to contain China, India, or Russia. But they both have spoken up about destroying ISIS, which I believe they can do, especially if they fix these helicopters so we can fly our wounded out.
Incredible.
That's a good point. I mean, what we have done so far is only airstrikes. And if you're going to cripple the aircraft capabilities, that's going to be an even bigger problem.
Well, next time you get a chance to see Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Pablo Brown or Lieutenant Colonel Crash Thomas, you thank him on behalf of WNJC, Conservative Commandos Radio, and our listeners for being proud Marines and standing up and looking out for their young Marines. That's what we expect. We don't find it much anymore, but we appreciate their service.
And what they did was pretty brave, I think.
Yeah, I think there's going to be repercussions. That's just the way it works now. God bless them, though, because if they didn't stand up, how would we know it? We'd only have Josh Earnest to inform us, and of course the warriors in the House and Senate on the Republican side. Fred, what stories are you chasing down now?
Well, we did something today on the sort of ongoing saga with the IRS commissioner. The White House responded on that to Republican attempts to bring impeachment charges in the House against John Kuskinen, the IRS commissioner, who didn't respond to subpoenas in the House Oversight Committee investigation on that. They're saying that the president has full confidence in the IRS commissioner and called any Republican attempts to bring impeachment charges ridiculous. So the readers might want to check out that, how the White House is rushing to the IRS commissioner's defense here. And we're also this story on the last conversation that President Obama had with President Putin. And something that was not brought up is more interesting than what was brought up, and that's that they did not talk at all about those Russian warplanes that came very close to a USS destroyer last week.
Well, I imagine Putin would just threaten to buzz the White House as a response, just to give him a nuclear wedgie, so to speak. I don't think the former KGB colonel is too concerned about the objections of Barack Hussein Obama. Fred Lucas, God bless you. Thanks.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of a surprise to a lot of people that, I mean, for this major incident that happened last week, and the two leaders talked today and it not even come up at all, or the White House says it did not necessitate a presidential level conversation.
Of course it doesn't. Hey, Fred Lucas, keep doing the good work. We'd love to have you on the show. Please come back soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. Hey, Rick, it's in the can. Another show out of the way. It's 4:59. Let me say this. I want to thank all of our listeners for being with us. Spread the word. You carry the light for this republic. God bless each and every one of you, and may God save the United States of America.